Hey Logo Geeks, it's Ian Paget here, back with another episode to help you make a living designing logos. And in today's show, I want to introduce you to something really exciting that launched this year. Brand Cult, the UK's first print-only business newspaper created to help entrepreneurs master branding, design, and marketing. To dive deeper into what Brand Cult is all about, I'm joined by its founder. So without further ado, here is my interview with Kierian Cameron. So I met Kierian a number of months back. I believe it was through uh, LinkedIn, if I remember correctly.
I think it was actually
Was it
Instagram.
Instagram? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we actually met in person a couple of weeks back at More Palooza, which is Michael Jander's event. And you know what? I'm completely blown away with what you did, because when we first started chatting, you just kind of had this raw seed of an idea. And then suddenly I go to this event. You're a sponsor for it. You have 3 copies of your newspaper, and you're just killing it. So I wanted to make sure that I get you on here today to uncover what everything that's gone into Brand Cole and just help you get the word out. So
Thank you.
I think what I'll do is I'll start with a question so that we can go into this and we'll see where this conversation goes. So what was the spark that inspired Brand Cult, and why have you decided to commit to this idea of using a newspaper when everything's online now?
Good question. So I have to rewind just a little bit. So I only started my graphic design career a little over a year ago. And I had been doing graphic design for a while, sort of unofficially with my other businesses. Obviously, I have to design the website and social media. And when I realized I wanted to be a graphic designer, I did all my Adobe certifications and then started applying for jobs, and then realized that at the ripe old age of 39, nobody wanted me as their intern. Nobody wanted a graphic design intern at 39.
Mhm.
So it was really difficult for me to get a graphic design job. So I was like, you know what? I've started businesses before. I'll do it again. I'll be my own boss. So the difference was that my first businesses grew through word of mouth very organically, without much marketing. However, starting a new career as a graphic designer, nobody knew who I was. I barely had a portfolio to show anybody. So I decided I'm going to put myself out there by going to networking events. And by doing that, I was collecting all these business cards. I was starting to get clients, but then I realized I can't help everybody that I meet. I was meeting so many people, and they would be asking me my advice at these networking events. What do you think of my logo? What could I do with my branding? And I was like, I really want to help these people, but help themselves. I want to give them the tools to be able to do it themselves. So I started thinking, like, how can I help them? Would it be in the form of a platform or a newsletter or a YouTube channel? And what all these things had in common were they were all online. And I didn't really want to be online because I was trying to think of what I enjoy. And at that time, I was looking for magazines and things to physically look at for inspiration. And I was like, you know what? A newspaper would be really cool. And I think I had seen there's a business called the Newspaper Club, and they do these really vibrant newspapers, not just newspapers, they do little magazines as well. And I was really inspired by what other people had been using their service for, and that's when Brand Cult, the spark for Brand Cult, was born. And I was like, I'm going to make something tangible. I'm going to take founders and business owners offline, because you spend all day on your computer, and then you might take a break at dinner time. And then, do we really want to be logging back onto our computer after dinner, to read LinkedIn's and Substacks and newsletters and articles? I was like, wouldn't it be nice just to have something tangible to sit on the couch and relax, something um, that we can read like sort of small chunks of business information. It's not overwhelming like a big business book at night. So yeah, that's what sparked it
That's
just a few
I
months ago.
really I really love this. So just to clarify, so a year ago you wasn't a graphic designer at all.
No, I was a primary school teacher.
Did you have the experience to do any graphic design, or have you like almost completely taught yourself everything?
So, like I said, I was doing graphic design for a very long time. As a teacher, we're constantly having to make like pitch decks, but they're in the form of a lesson. So slideshows, I guess, um, educational resources, worksheets, booklets, um, resources for classrooms, displays. So I was always using Canva was my go-to as an untrained designer. I was using Canva a lot, and then um, so what happened was someone came to me and they said, "Oh, I really want to work for you as a teacher." And I said, "I'm not taking any teachers on at the moment. But I can help you get clients. I'll make you a flyer, and then you can hand it out as a tutor and get clients." So I designed a flyer for them, and I had them send me their Bitmoji from Snapchat. So that was on the flyer, and it was very vibrant and fun. And it was then that they said to me, "This is really cool. Have you ever thought about doing graphic design?" And I was like, "You know what? I love spending time on Canva. I love creating stuff." And at the same time, I was reading a book called Ikigai, which do you know what it means, Ian?
I've heard of it, but do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so Ikigai is Japanese and it means to find one's life purpose. And so I was feeling a little bit lost when I came back to London. I'd been living in Hong Kong for 7 years, teaching and running my education company. And when I came to London, I felt like I'd lost my spark. I was still teaching, but not enjoying it. So I was reading this book called Ikigai, trying to find my life's purpose. And what's great about Ikigai is it's very logical. That it's basically a Venn diagram of four circles. And in the middle will be your life purpose once you've filled out the other circles. So I always forget everything in each circle, but it's something along the lines of what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can make money from, and I forget the fourth one. And so for me, when I assess my life, it felt like, well, I'm really good. I think I'm good at graphic design. I really love to do it. It can make money and it's what the world needs. So, and that's in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I have to be a graphic designer. And then I sort of dived into the graphic design world, started watching all these videos. I was watching Liz Mosley, I was watching Will Patterson, I was watching James Martin, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love this." And I did all my Adobe certifications and and then started my career as a graphic designer. It was about a year and a bit ago, just a little bit over a year ago.
You know what I really like about you? How you decide that you're going to do something and then you go all out and go all in.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
to think that like just over a year ago you was a primary school teacher and now you are a graphic designer, self-employed. You have this newspaper, and I know based on spending a little bit of time with you that you're going to establish yourself fairly quickly within this space and hopefully get known. And I'm excited to see how you're going to develop everything just because of the speed that you do everything. And you know what, I really want to stress, I think it's very admirable that you made a big career shift,
Mm.
because I'm a couple of years older than you, and
Mhm.
I would find it quite terrifying to make a career change now.
Mhm.
um Especially in like a big career change anyway, to go from something like a teacher to a graphic designer, something that requires a lot of skill, lots of education, stuff like that. So it's very admirable that you've done that. And I can imagine that there might be some in listening or watching that will probably be inspired by that and want to check out that Ikigai thing. So
Mhm.
what I'll do is I might overlay something in like on over this,
Mhm.
or on the, or for anyone listening on the audio, I'll put a link in the show notes so that you can find those diagrams. All
Mhm.
right, so
Okay.
going back to the brand cult stuff. So um on this podcast, we talk a lot about branding, and
Mhm.
we have done episodes where we've spoke about naming.
Mhm.
And you are Brand Cult, which is a fantastic name.
Thank you.
Um, where did that come from? Why did you come up with this name?
So obviously, naming is a really big task when you start a business. It's very important to choose the right name. And so I did a lot of brainstorming, a lot of back and forth with my partner, asking their advice, asking other people's advice, what they thought was good. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to yourself because brand cult. The reason I decided on the name brand cult is because I wanted to help businesses build cult brands, and cult brands are your brands like Apple, and it's the brands that we're absolutely obsessed with. Like, we can't explain why we need every single Apple device. As soon as they drop a new iPhone, why do we need it? We can't really explain it. It's because it's a cult brand. It's because we want to be part of that community. And that's really what I wanted to build. I wanted to build a cult like community, but in a good way, obviously. And I had a lot of pushback when I suggested brand cult. They're like, oh, why cult? That's a bit taboo. That might rub people up the wrong way. They might, think of it as religious or negative. And I was like, well, those are probably not my target audience if they read too much into it, because it's really not that deep. Um, Cults, actually, there've been thousands and thousands of cults over the years, and only a few of them have been bad, but it's really tainted the name of cults. But really, it's just short for culture, and it just represents a community of people who resonate with the same thing. They've got something in common, and they've come together to share that passion, and that's what I want with brand cult. It's a business cult for me. We all want to succeed in business and build our cult brands and build our cult followings. So it just seemed like the perfect simple solution is brand cult.
Yeah. In terms of branding frameworks, have you ever come across primal branding?
No, what's that?
There's a guy called Patrick Hanlon. He's been on the podcast before. He came up with this framework based on primal, on this idea of primal branding. He wrote a book about it. And there was these 7 things. I can't remember exactly what they were, but he came up with this really nice framework for all these things that brand leads. Things like a leader, like most uh, brands have a leader. I can't remember what the 7 things are off the top of my head,
Mm,
but I recommend that you check that out, because I think in terms of what you're trying to do with like a cult like brand, his
mhm,
framework is really good for that kind of thing. And he factors in things like I can't remember the word exactly he used, but like a belief system, like it's almost like a religious system, which I think is
mhm,
really fascinating from a branding point of view.
mhm. Well, that would explain a lot, because, founder-led brands are very popular right now, and that hits number one of your framework, of having a leader. And yeah, there's lots of cult brands out there who follow probably a similar framework. I'll need to check it out. Is it in a book?
Yes, I think what I will do is I will pull it
Can have
up.
a
Yeah, I
whole
can pull
list
it up
of books.
now. So brand cult, 7 things. I think it was 7 things.
Primal branding, you
Yeah,
said.
the 7 golden rules of cult branding. No,
I'll
that's
definitely need
somebody
to check
else.
that out. Yeah.
Um, primal branding. Patrick Hanlon. I probably edit this, but Patrick Hanlon. But I think it's interesting. Okay.
Mm,
The 7 attributes are creation story, the creed, which is the religious side,
Mhm.
icons. So if you are Coca-Cola, it's like the bottle shape.
Mhm.
Rituals, so certain things that you would do specific to that brand. So
Mhm.
like kind of talking about Coca-Cola, you open up the can and
Yeah.
I mean that's not specific to the brand, but there are a number of things that are
Mhm.
sacred words. So for Apple, you have your iPod,
I
iPhone, or this type of
iPhone, yeah.
thing. um Pagans, I can't remember what that one referred to. And leaders. The pagans is basically haters. So the
Oh.
opposite of people that are going to be following you, and the leaders. So Apple is a good example because you have Steve Jobs.
Mhm.
So why I like this is because I find things like religion really interesting. How it like religion is almost like the perfect brand.
Mm.
And this creating this like cult like thing, or this primal type thing, I think there's an overlap in there, is
Mhm.
a really really fascinating way of working. And it's surprisingly, it's of everything that I've discussed on this podcast over the years and learning about branding, that's the most interesting framework to me, this idea of creating a cult like thing. So I think you're really onto something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most brands probably follow this framework without even realizing.
A lot of them do.
Mm. Like you
And it's
said, you just picked out two businesses, Apple, Coca-Cola. I can think of a few more as well. Things like CrossFit. CrossFit, they have their verbiage, like the way they talk about exercise. They have got special language. I actually reviewed a book in the launch edition of Brand Cult because every month I do a book review. And the very first book that I reviewed is called Cultish,
okay.
and it's the language of fanaticism, because that's something that all cult brands and cults in real life have in common, is they have a charismatic leader, and the charismatic leader is able to use language to pull its followers in, and that's what a lot of brands do. Like you mentioned something about the language.
Hmm.
What did you call it? Was it the
I
creed
just
one?
need to. It was sacred words.
Sacred words, yeah. So you have when your followers start to follow a certain sacred word system, that's when they really start to get pulled into your community and into your brand, because you've become special. Like you're using those words, and not everyone will know what you're talking about, and it makes them feel part of something.
I totally agree, and I think this is something as business owners, so anyone that's providing logo design, branding, we are business owners.
Mhm.
And again, this is something that's come from one of the podcasts, but something that I found really interesting from someone was the idea of having a proprietary framework, and I think this falls into it. So you have, I think a really good example is what Chris there at the Future has done, where they have core, and core is their branding framework, and everyone's like, oh, do you use core? That's that, that name, that term is
Mm.
used across the industry. I think stylescapes as well. When they first started using that, that wasn't something that I heard very much. I don't know if they coined it or if it was used previously, because I used to call them mood boards. But
Mm.
that's a really good example of how one company within the design industry has used those
Mhm.
sacred words. And I think as business owners doing branding, this idea of having a framework that's proprietary, that's yours, that has a specific name,
Mhm.
um, I think is very powerful. I don't yet do that myself,
Mhm.
but it's something that I think a lot about. And this primal branding is one
Mhm.
of those examples. And
Have you heard of, you probably have, brand themes?
Can you
Be
describe what you mean?
Yeah, so basically, a business will take something that they might be interested in and use it in their branding to convey their, it's like a differentiator. So I'll use the example of Studio Koya. My friend Isa, she's a graphic designer and a brand consultant, but she also loves to cook and she loves everything to do with food. So what she does is she uses that a theme and she calls herself a brand chef. And you can put your branding in her chef's oven. Her special offer is, I think it's called the Chef Special, and her whole entire business is in this brand theme, and it differentiates herself from other graphic designers and brand consultants. But it's a good way to, we were talking about sacred words and words that we can use to draw our clients and customers in and make them feel part of something. And when you have a brand theme, that's easy. You can use those sort of words and be like, yeah, I've got a brand offer, put it in the brand oven. I can't remember all of the metaphors that she uses, but it's really good. I, for my own graphic design studio, so not Brand Cult, the newspaper, I thought about, I've always wanted to be an author. I've always wanted to be a storyteller and an author. And I thought maybe I could be your brand
Mm.
storyteller. Maybe I could help you build your brand and build your story and build your whole world building. And I thought about that for a while. I might still use it. So if you're listening, don't be stealing my idea. No, but if you think about it, and it doesn't even have to, the fun thing is it doesn't have to be related to what you do. If you love like video gaming, you could pull that into your graphic design. Or if you loved running or hiking or outdoors, you could bring that nature in. Isa actually helped, I think it was Isa, she helped someone with their branding, and they used vintage. So this person was a content creator and they loved thrifting and vintage. And so they used that theme. And now she talks about second-hand content, like reusing and repurposing their content as a sort of second-hand vintage. So yeah, it can be used across all different,
I really
businesses.
really love the idea. I know with some of the stuff that I've been doing, and I've been slightly reluctant to lean into this. But I've often thought about, because I've got like the geek thing, to sort of lean more
Mm,
into that and maybe add like, I know, like computer game characters or sound effects, or
yeah,
when I did my book
definitely.
launch, I started playing with it a little bit more. Like I did like a logo comic, like a logo geek logo comic. I did some
Oh,
AI
that's
mock-ups of
amazing.
what the covers would look like, but I might have to do that because the idea just seems really cool.
That would be really great for your socials as well, because everybody loves a good comic strip, and you could do some carousels with like clips of comic strips. Logo Geek, he's designing logos in this comic strip, and maybe he does something funny in the comic strip.
I
I
think
think that'd
my
be really good.
issue is it's difficult because currently Logo Geek, and I do have a solution for it. But my target audience for clients is different to my target audience for like the design stuff, and I have considered
Mm.
separating it for that reason so that I can go all in on the different things. But I mean, to be honest, it would probably work for both anyway.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you'll attract a new different type of clientele. Maybe you'll have video game producers and Nintendo will be like, "Logo Geek, we need your help."
Yeah, it could be fun to try. Anyway, let's try and go back to the brand cult stuff, because I want to make sure that I
Yeah.
give as much exposure to this as I can, because I think it's such a cool idea. So you spoke
Mm.
about how you was inspired by this idea of creating a newspaper. You spoke about how you came up with the name, but let's talk about how did this go from being this idea that you had a few months ago to becoming an actual physical thing? Do you want to talk through the stages you went through?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that that's kind of like my personality, to have an idea and just take it
You go
full
all in.
hog, 100%, and yeah, all in. And that's just the way I've always been. And it's probably because I've got ADHD, and I love to start things. I love to have ideas. I'm very creative. But in life, it's led me, like, it's made me move countries. I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Hong Kong, started my business in Hong Kong. And I mean, I feel like if you have an idea, you just need to try it. And if it fails, I've actually had loads of failed businesses. When I came to London, I got a dog, and I was cooking homemade food for my dog, like really healthy homemade food. And I was like, you know what? I really love cooking, and let's start a business where I'll cook homemade food for dogs and then distribute it in my local area. And I think I called it like Wow Chow. And yeah, but it wasn't it when I actually ran the business costs of how much the containers and everything would cost, it was too expensive. It wasn't really cost effective. So I gave up, and it was a failed business, but I tried it. So with brand cult, yeah, I had the idea. And I guess so. I still run my education company in Hong Kong, and to be honest, that's what funds me. That's what gives me the opportunity to make brand cult and make my graphic design career possible. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people, who need to make a steady income, who need money to come in. So I've been very lucky in that way, that my education company in Hong Kong, I make enough that I can sort of do whatever I want in my graphic design career. I don't need to have a full book of clients to survive. So yeah, I just did whatever I thought needed to be done to make it happen. I already had Newspaper Club is who I print through. I have myself. I do all the graphic design. My degree is actually in English literature, so I love to write. And I mentioned I wanted to be an author, so I feel like I sort of tick all the boxes on everything. Like I'm a one-woman team, so I write the editorial. I design a newspaper. I'm very I love to be organized. I love to connect with people. Through all the networking and connections I was making, I was meeting people to interview for Brand Cult. So the sort of framework for brand cult is I interview industry experts, because I know I'm not an expert in everything. I've only been graphic designing for over a year. So you might be thinking, like, well, why should I listen to her? Well, don't listen to me, listen to the people that I'm interviewing. So I've interviewed James Martin for the second issue of Brand Cult, who has, yeah, decades of industry experience, and I interviewed him and got so much good advice for my readers. um, I also spotlight UK businesses, so some massive businesses, but also I've been interviewing smaller businesses who are at the start or the messy middle of their business, to share their journeys as well. So I have industry experts, UK businesses. We have all the regular traditional newspaper elements as well. So I have a financial columnist, I have an accountant who writes every month for us now. I have the comic strip, which is really fun, and quite comical. It's some of them are based on my own experiences, which I think is quite comical. Yeah, and I mentioned the book review every month as well. So
I, I,
yeah,
I,
just doing what I
I
can.
think, like I said, I really like that you just have this idea and you go out there and get it done. And because I think it's so easy, and I don't know if everyone's like this, but I can sometimes stew on an idea for sometimes years and never do
Mm,
anything with the idea. And I really like that you've gone out there and figured out how to do it. Like it sounds like the idea kind of stemmed from the print company, Newspaper Club. It sounds like you saw that, and like that kind of solved the print side straight away. And if you know how to design it,
hmm.
um that's one thing. If you know how to write, that's another thing. It's like you got all the skills to be able to do this. And I
Yeah.
think one of the key things really is that, like, networking. um I don't know how you found it, but it's been interesting. Like in the graphic design space, whenever I've reached out to somebody, um, like 99 out of 100 times they say yes. Have you found that as well with everything that you're doing? Even though it's a completely new thing, has
Hmm.
everyone said yes to you that you've reached out to?
Um, so I don't exclusively interview graphic designers. I also interview founders, business owners. Um, But yeah, most of the time, well, I think everybody loves the idea of
Mhm.
brand cult and they love the idea of print, bringing print back. So most people have agreed to be interviewed. Some people have agreed, but they've said, right, this is my fee. And I'm like, well, I'm not quite there yet to be paying a lot of money for the interviews, but if you're happy to contribute, um, and be heard and be seen as a thought leader, then they've contributed. Um, as I've expanded, I've tried to get in contact with some of the bigger companies, and they're really
Mm.
difficult to pin down. They've just got such big departments and so many people doing so many things. So, for example, this is a little bit of a sneak peek. Nobody knows this yet, and it hasn't been confirmed. I'm still trying to get in contact with someone, but I'm trying to get someone at
Okay.
Oatly. You know the milk brand
Yes. Yeah.
Oatly? Yeah. So I love their messaging. Their messaging is so fun and unique and disruptive. Um, our next issue is going to be about messaging and how you can clearly convey your messages to your clients and your customers. And I'm trying to get. I have spoken to someone at Oatly and they've given me email addresses, but then no one really replies to the emails. So I'm still trying to track someone down. But hopefully, watch this space.
So, guys, I'm going to pause the interview just for a moment to share something I'm really excited about and something that I would love for you to be part of, and that's More Creative Academy. If you're a designer, a freelancer, or agency owner, you'll know how isolating it can feel running a creative business. That's exactly why More Creative Academy exists. It's the ultimate platform for creative growth, offering coaching from Michael Janda, a huge library of resources, and a supportive community that truly understands your personal challenges and celebrates your wins with you. And here's the exciting part for you as a listener of this podcast. I am now part of the More Creative Academy leadership team. So every month, I will be hosting an exclusive live Geek Out session inside the Academy where I will dive deep into a creative topic with a guest and just geek out. For example, this month I'll be creating a mascot live step by step with Steph Hammerlink. Next month, we'll be making Sonic branding with Drop Music branding. And the following month, David Airy will be joining us to show us exactly how he presents logos to clients who are paying him over £10,000 for a logo. So stop running your creative business alone. Join me, Michael Janda, and an incredible community of creatives who are ready to help you level up. To find out more and join, head to logogeek.uk/MCA. That's logogeek.uk/MCA. Now let's get back to the interview. Some advice from me. So through this podcast, there have been some more difficult guests to get hold of, and I've
Mhm.
found the best thing is to try and get an introduction. So I think Emily Oberman is somebody who I did in this way. She's a Pentagram partner, and she's done a lot of like logos for movies, and I've wanted to get her on the podcast for years, and I've tried and tried and tried. Like I've tried emailing, and people at a certain level, it's not that they don't want to get involved. It's just they don't see it because they're busy. Um,
Mm.
but how I ended
Mhm.
up getting Emily on is I happened to be chatting through a podcast interview with somebody who knew her, And I just asked, I know this is cheeky,
Mhm.
but do you mind introducing me? And that worked. And it's
Mhm.
been the same for getting involved with articles that are posted to well-known websites or anything like this. It's so useful to know people. So, like, networking your way to that
Mhm.
person is one of the absolute
Mhm.
best ways, and it feels like you are doing that anyway. Like, I saw, a
Mhm.
couple of weeks ago, we was at Palooza, which is Michael Jander's event, and you were very good at networking. Not a lot
Yes.
of designers aren't, and I think this is your superpower.
Oh yeah. I like to think of myself as a bit of a super connector, and I like to think of myself as someone that people can come to, and I'll
Mm.
connect them and introduce them to other people. And I have done that. I went to an event yesterday, and even though it wasn't my event, I was the one that facilitated the event space. I knew the girl with the event space, and I introduced her to a lady that has a tea brand, and a lady that has a female founder community. And I introduced all three of them, and they came up and collaborated with this trifecta female founder matcha tasting coffee date event, and it was really successful. And I was the one that was the
That's so
introduced
cool. Just
everyone.
out of curiosity, have you always been like this, or is this something that you've developed?
No, I think I've just developed it. I've sort of found it and been like, I really like this. I'm going to do this more. Yeah, because I've never went to a networking event before. Before I guess last
It sounds
year.
like brand cult is the
Yeah.
ultimate way to connect people, which is awesome. I really love it.
Well, it's it's funny. I'm just gonna you've over here. This is the latest issue of Brand Cult. This is
Ooh,
September's issue,
exclusive.
and yeah, it says our network is our net worth. That was the title because this issue is all about community and it's all about network and who you know directly
It
influences your
does.
net worth and how much money you make. It's a sad truth because it's hard, like you said, if you're introverted, you might not want to get out there, but you
I
really
well,
should try.
I'm
You
an
should try because it.
introvert, and I was told I had social anxiety disorder at one point, but I really wanted to overcome
Mm,
it. And I think if you really
mm-hmm,
want to do something, then you make an effort to do it. It's not easy, but there's therapy out there that's very good, like cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a
mm-hmm,
lot of support for it, and um like something that my podcast has been absolutely incredible for getting comfortable.
mm-hmm,
Like doing video now, I was not physically comfortable to do this when I started. In fact, most of my early
mm-hmm.
interviews were so awful on my side that I re-recorded a lot of my parts just because I was so nervous, or I stuttered, or I blundered. And you can use things like podcasting online. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations rather, and get out there and
Yeah, to
grow.
grow
But
and
I
succeed.
feel like I'm a
Mm-hmm,
testament to that. Yeah, somebody who was physically told by a nurse, or yeah, it was a nurse, that I have social anxiety, um that I've been able to, sort of be able to do things like this, to be able to speak at events, and to be able to network.
yeah, absolutely. And so I actually interviewed Liz
Okay.
Mosley,
I
and
I don't know
Liz,
Liz, but I
right?
know her name.
She's an Adobe ambassador. She speaks at all the Adobe events. She's a graphic designer. I think she's mostly on Instagram, but she's launched a podcast. So I actually interviewed her for this
Oh.
community issue of Brand Cult
For those that
called
are
Beyond the
listening just to the
Feeds.
audio, we are looking at like an open spread of the newspaper, and the title is Beyond the Feed, with a really nice picture, lots of great content.
Yes, and I'm not sure if you can see this quote. There's a quote down here from Liz because she also has a podcast called Build Your Brand, I
Do you
think
want
it's
to read
called.
out the
Brand,
quote? Because
Build Your Brand.
some people will just be listening to the
Yes,
audio.
yes. So the quote says, "The podcast has been the best networking tool I've ever had, and I would never have predicted that when I
Same,
started.
same.
And it feels, yeah, and it feels like the same way for you as well. There's steps that you can take to networking that are not the traditional get out there and hand over your business cards. Even just like little coffee meetups, starting a podcast. There's ways
Hmm.
to do it, and you just
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
figure them out.
you have to just do what's
Yeah.
comfortable for you. Something I actually find networking events really useful because um, if say I went to an actual pub, say, and I wanted to network there, it's very intimidating to just walk up to somebody random and say hi. But it's different when you go to a
Hmm.
networking event because everybody is there to meet other people. So, something I do
Hmm.
is if I see somebody on their own looking a little bit uncomfortable, I will go over and talk to them. And then, like, as a two,
Hmm.
you go into the bigger groups and then you go in that way. And I've had people tell me, I used to go to Upreneur, which was in London, something that Chris Ducker did. Sadly he's not doing that event anymore. But they often did,
Oh.
sort of networking type things, and there was this guy sort of stood on the side looking a bit bored, I would say. And after that day, he thanked me. He's like, Ian, thank you so much for coming up to me. I was just about to leave,
Oh.
but he stayed the whole
Oh,
time
that's
and he got chatting with everybody. And I think breaking the ice is so important. Like if you are
mm,
introvert and you have the balls to do that, maybe the other person's introverted and they don't have the balls to do that. So it can be really beneficial both
yeah.
ways. But if people have gone to that networking event to network, speak to people because people want
Hmm.
you to speak to them. And um,
The whole networking scene is rapidly changing. It's not what you might think it is anymore. So another example, how earlier I said that my comic strip in the newspaper is usually based on
mhm.
my experience. Well, I recently went to a networking event and it was actually called
Okay.
networking. Networking, like dancing. So I went with 80 other business owners and it was DJs, music, a twerking lesson, and still business. Like we still networked and chatted. So this month in Brancult, sorry for the people who are listen audio only, but this is another sneak peek of the
I
comic
love
strip
this.
this
It's
month
so cool.
was my character in the comic strip, she walks into a building, she sees two doors, one says networking, the other one says networking. She peeks in the networking door, it's just a bunch of old businessmen handing out business cards. So she chooses networking, and it's a room full of fun lights, drinks, and just relaxed
You know
networking.
what's funny?
But
This looks like
yeah.
it's a joke, but it's not. You actually did go to a networking event.
I actually, yeah, I did. I did. So, yeah, when you think there might not be anything out there for you, just look a little bit
Oh
harder because there might
man,
be
I've
something
never
that really
been to
suits you.
anything like that. I think something that's really difficult with this. So it's easier where I live now. So I moved earlier in the year. But for like the past 2 years, I lived in a fairly small, quiet village where the most exciting place to go to was the local library. There was lots of like, if you
Oh,
look for things to do, it's like knitting clubs and by older people, like
oh,
nothing. Yeah, and I mean, unless you drove, there was nothing to do. But here, I can easily get into
mm,
Birmingham, and there's so much more exciting stuff that you can go to. So I think, while these things
hmm.
are great, you need to be living in the right place. Um,
But also, if you're not living in the right place and you don't have the means to
create
move
one.
to a city, exactly. Create one, just like I did with Branco. There wasn't a branding design magazine that I could just pick up. And so I was like, you know what? Gap in
Have
the
an idea
market.
and make it
I'm going to create one.
happen. This is why I like talking to
Exactly.
talking to people that do stuff and create things. Like my favorite type of people are the creators of the world rather than the critiques. Because
Mm,
there's, and I think being a designer, we have everything that we need to be able to do these things. And even if you can't write, you don't really have the excuse anymore because you can like write really in a crappy way what you want to say into like chat gpt, and it can make some sense of it,
Mhm.
or you can partner with somebody and it's easy to find those people who you can
Mhm.
partner with. So I really like this idea of um if you want something to exist, make it exist.
Yeah, the world is your oyster, it really is, and that was a good point that you made about partnering. If there's skills that you don't have, partnership and collaboration is the way to go. So a good example of that is even though I love designing, I'm not great at content creation and social media like reels and videos. So what I've done is I actually had this thought in the shower. I want help with my social media, but what can I do? I don't really have the extra funds to pay for a social media manager or someone to do the content creation. But I am part of a few networking groups, so I sent out a message and I said, "Look, here's what I'm going to offer. It's a non-transactional offer where you help me with my social media and I can offer you X, Y, and Z. I can offer you advertising space in brand cult. I can offer you to bring you along to all the events that I go to. And so I just laid it out there. This is what I can offer. And if you want to help me and you're happy with this sort of deal, then let's do it. And I already had like 3 different interviews with social media managers that were happy with that. And there's no money exchange
I
at all.
really love that. I think because you came from
Mm,
a different background, you have so many different skill sets that a lot of designers just don't have. So I think that's
mm,
like, again, I mentioned like your superpower. I think um because you have changed careers and you have come into this with I guess a different mindset. I think it's really cool,
mm-hmm.
and hopefully, somebody out there might take some inspiration from that. Okay, we got
I hope
about, I
so.
think, like 10 minutes left of this, and I want to make sure that we um uh go through a couple more questions about brand cult. So I want to talk about your
Mhm.
sort of long-term vision for this. So this started as an
Mhm.
idea not long ago. You now have, what is it, 4 issues, 5 issues? How many issues are there now?
Yep, this is issue
Issue
number
number
4.
4. Okay.
Number 4. Yeah.
And so what's the big vision for this? Where do you see this long term? So like it's been what, like a year, less than a year. Fast forward 5 years
Mhm.
time. What is this gonna look like, do you think?
My mission and the where I see brand cult in the next couple of years would be I want to expand. I want to bring so brand cult actually started as a branding, design, and marketing newspaper, but I've realized that business owners want a more holistic view. So I've sort of expanded to all areas of business, and I want to bring that advice to all areas of the world.
Mm.
So I'm hoping to bring it to America. I'm hoping to bring it to Europe. I'm hoping just to have hubs all over the world and have printers all over the world producing brand cult and spreading the word.
Like I
That's
said,
the mission.
I really, really like what you're doing, and I'm so impressed with how quickly you developed this, because it doesn't feel long ago that you mentioned that you have this idea and you're wanting to put it together. I have conversations like this all the time with friends. People have
Mm,
ideas, but then it takes them time to put it together. Some don't do it or whatever, but it's like we had this conversation, and then I know we spoke a little bit here and there, and about going to the More Palooza thing. We met there, and then suddenly, like, at the back of the room there were three fully designed actual newspapers at the back. You was a sponsor at the event. You was being uh, Mike Jander was doing shout outs for you. Like it's like you went from it being nothing to being something that's not only here, but fairly established as well. Like it
mhm,
feels established already. And I feel pretty confident that if you stay focused on this and don't like start another business,
mm,
I really can see it going across America, and definitely take up James Martin's offer to support with that, because he's really well known in the graphic design space. He does have the connections. I know that as a matter of fact. So if
Mm,
he's offered that, take it.
mhm,
Hopefully doing things like this interview now will help open some doors as well. At least,
mhm.
people that don't know you and what you're doing will now hopefully know more about what you're doing.
Yeah,
So I think, sorry.
I was just about to say just visibility is really important, exposure is important, and networking helps with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, if people don't know what you do, then you're never gonna get anywhere. Like
Mhm,
you can be the best designer in the world, but if you're not showing your work and not putting it out there, or doing any of the marketing stuff or the networking stuff, or just showing people your work and getting it out there, no one's gonna know about it. So
mhm,
like networking and marketing and doing things like this, what we're doing now, is so important
mhm.
in order to get anywhere. But you've really created something. I think it's very special, and I really like this. I really like that you're a connector of people, and I think I kind of feel like you found your thing. Like you've
Yes.
built up all these skill sets over the years, and now you found this thing that's going to be
My
like
my
the
Ikigai.
yeah.
I found my Ikigai, and you can find it too.
And you can
Yeah.
find it too. I love that little call to action. Okay,
Yes.
so um people have heard where this idea came from. They've heard that you turned it from an idea to a reality and had a little bit of the behind the scenes of how things have come together. How can people get involved with this if they wanted to?
Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned, Brand Cult is a community. It's not just a newspaper. I want to really welcome everybody in. And even if you're not ready to subscribe to the newspaper, please follow along. We're on Instagram at brand.cult UK. And you can check out our website, which is brandcult.uk. So the dots are in different places, unfortunately, there. And yeah, or you can even find me and connect with me on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/cult leader, or search for Kierian Cameron. And I'd be happy to connect with anybody and connect you and make introductions if that's what you need as well.
I love that. And for all those links that you shared there, I will make sure they are in the show notes for this
Thank
episode.
you.
Or if this is a video on YouTube, I will put them in the description
Yes.
of this. Okay, so
And
last question for you.
mhm,
If somebody wants to buy this,
mhm.
and it's a subscription model, isn't it? So people
Yes.
subscribe to receive a, is it monthly magazine?
Yes, it's monthly.
Monthly
It
newspaper, sorry.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
So
how can they do that? How can they go out there and
so
buy this?
So you go onto our website, brandcult.uk, and I would love to offer all of the Logo Geeks listeners out there a mystery discount. I won't tell you how
Mystery
much it is.
discount.
Yeah, but if you use the promotion code Logo Geek Mystery Cult, it's a bit of a long one,
I'll
Logo
put it in the
Geek
show notes as
Mystery
well.
Cult. Yeah, if you put that in, you'll receive a mystery discount on your first issue of Brand Cult. So Brand Cult's 14.99 every month, and that includes delivery. And I just want to point out that it's actually a whole experience when you receive your brand cult. It comes in a very ominous black envelope and it's wrapped in tissue and sealed with a wax stamp. And
That's
you have
so
to break
cool.
open the wax stamp to get into the newspaper for the grand reveal. I'm also going to be working with a bespoke perfumery to come up with a brand scent so that it's a whole sensory
I
experience when you
love
receive your brand
this.
cult. So yeah, and then, like I said, that's the experience of receiving your brand cult. But you're welcome if you're not quite there yet. Just join our community on Instagram. I do brand confessions every Sunday on my Instagram stories. If you've got any, because if you don't go to church, where else are you going to confess your sins? But you can do it with brand cult. We love to hear those.
Confess your branding sins.
Yes.
I really, really love what you're doing, and I hope that people listening to this will also admire what you're doing and want to support it in whatever way they can. So
Thank you.
um, we are kind of at the end of the time that we have available. As much as I would love to keep talking, I know that we do need to wrap up the call now. So Kierian, it's been an absolute joy to chat with you. I'm really glad that we connected and we was able to meet in person as well. So
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on as a guest and for doing an experimental video. We have had a couple of technical issues, so hopefully I can edit it together okay and there's no issues with anything. But yeah,
Mm.
anyways, yeah, just thank you so much. It's been really
Oh,
great.
thank you so much for asking me on. It's been a delight. I love talking about all of this, and I'm happy, even though, like I said, I've only got a year of design under my belt.
Don't tell
Really,
people that. You seem established now. You're
yeah,
doing
I'm
good.
honored. Well, like I said, I've been doing it for a long time. It's just officially been a year. But I'm really honored that, people see or take inspiration from my story. So thank you for having me on. And hopefully I have inspired others to take that idea that they've been sitting on and run with it.
Yeah, brilliant. So everything we discussed in this, I'll do a transcription of the interview and links to any resources or your socials. I'll put that all in the show notes so people can
Thank
easily
you.
find it and connect with you and join a cult.
Yes, join the cult.